Zebra Products is the UK's leading distributor of premium equestrian brands catering for horse and rider. From Veridus, Amerigo, Sprenger, Akeep, Uvex and many more leading brands, Zebra's impressive portfolio includes clothing, saddles and accessories, boots for horse and rider, care products, horse rugs and helmets. Head to zebraproducts.co.uk to see where you can purchase their products from, which will help you stay ahead of the herd. Welcome to the Ac Ratings Eventing Podcast and listeners, a brand new episode of The Zebra Show. Now this show, quite honestly, is The Zebra Show because we are going to find out all about Zebra Products. We have been working with them for a good number of years now on the podcast. They have been massive supporters of ours. I'm sure many of you have heard of them. We wanted to dig a little bit beneath the brand and find out exactly what it is they are all about. So joining me on the show, Managing Director, friend of the show, Simon Middleton. Very good to have you with us.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
We're turning the tables, Simon, because I pitched this idea to you and you're like, no, I'm not sure about this. But I think it is such a fascinating insight into what makes Zebra Products tick and where you've come from, because I think you're going into your 23rd year of business and you're just a massive part of the UK equine industry, and of course, the Ac Ratings Eventing Podcast. So, for anybody that doesn't know, Zebra Products is the UK and Ireland's leading distributor of premium equestrian brands. And there are so many top name brands that you guys work with: Amerigo, Veridus, Cavaliera Toscana. I mean, the list absolutely goes on. But first of all, Simon, I wanted to pick your brains on you because a massive part of the business. What is your backstory? Tell us a bit more about you, first of all, before we get into the Zebra Products journey.
Okay. So as you said, the business started 23 years ago. I'm from a non-horsey background. My family are actually very involved in cycling, which is totally non-horsey. And from a small kid, I was taken to lots of bike races. My father was a top cyclist. My brother was junior national champion. My brother's got a bike shop, and I'm literally the black sheep. I was never interested in bikes at all, but I always had this passion for horses. I have no idea where it came from at all. I just always liked horses. So my family were really good. They took me to learn to ride when I was 8, and they had no interest in horses, but they were very supportive. Took me to a local riding school, and I learned to ride. And then my father, after much pleading, agreed to get me a pony when I was 13. So again, really lucky. I got a pony when I was 13. Then they took me to shows. They had no idea about shows, but they supported me with this pony. And yeah, it went on. And then the pony became the horse, etc., etc. And then it's just been a passion that's never gone away. So that's my horse side of things. Then I left school at 18 and didn't really know what to do. I always thought I'd love to do horses, but I just thought I'm probably not. I just didn't think, one, that I was good enough, and two, that there was money to be made, really. It just didn't seem a natural thing to do. So when I was 18, I sort of looked for a job, wanted any job that would pay for my horse at the time. So my first job was in the civil service, I think it was, as like an administrative assistant. It was quite boring, but it was some money. So then I worked there for 2 years. Then the horse thing just kept still burning away. And then I went to work with horses for a year. I went to work for quite a famous event rider at the time. Well, very famous. It was a rider called Rachel Hunt. She was an up-and-coming rider in the 80s, and I went to work for her. And yeah, it was good. I took a horse with me and learned a lot, but I again realized that I couldn't earn enough money from doing it. So after that, I sort of again didn't really know what to do. So I actually sold my horse and then traveled around America for a summer, like working on a children's camp and teaching riding and then swimming and things like that. And then when I came back, I still didn't really know quite what I wanted to do. So my family are from retail. My father always had a shop, and my brother's now got a shop. So I was always from a retail background. So I went to work at a supermarket as like a trainee retail manager. So I did that for 4 years, and I literally worked from the shop floor upwards. I did, I think, about 4 new store openings as a manager in a supermarket. Then again, the horse side of things was getting more and more, involved. I had a good horse that I thought could do quite well eventing, because eventing was the thing that really interested me. And obviously, working in a supermarket, you can't be off at the weekends because that's the busiest time of the week. So I then got another job as a salesperson, but selling back to supermarkets. And that meant that I could event at weekends. And around that time, I met my now wife, Lindsay. She worked at an event stables, and I moved my horse to that stable, sort of spotted her and thought, it was a really weird thing. I spotted her and thought, I'm going to marry her. And it was like a straight away sort of thing. And I moved my horse there because I've got to, I've got to try and follow this plan. And, so I moved my horse there. And then this horse was a pretty amazing horse. I mean, he took me from what was then 100, pre-novice. And then like maybe 6-7 years later, I went to compete at Blenheim. It was just a very, very good horse. I didn't really know what I was doing, but he just looked after me and really, did a good job. And that was the first sort of big step in my eventing career. Then my wife, she left the yard where I was at and we were at together, and she set up a livery yard. And she did training with people and ran a livery yard. And she was teaching these clients of hers, and they sort of said to me, have you never thought about having your own business? And I said, yeah, I'd love my own business, but I don't know what to do. And they said, what's your passion? I said, well, I love equestrian products. I really like gear, horse gear. I've always was one of those people that looked to see what the top riders use, what saddles they use, what bits they use, what boots they used on the horse, etc. So this couple that my wife taught, they said, well, what would you like to do? I said, well, I'd love to sell equestrian gear. And they had a wholesale irrigation business. And they said, well, why don't we work together? You could be the sales side of things. My wife can be the sort of admin side. And anyway, we set up a business in 2000, and I gave up my job and handed my company car back. The Sunday that I was due to start my own business on the Monday, and the Sunday I was competing at an event and riding a different horse, and I actually fell off and broke my back. So I started the new business in hospital. So I'd gone from sort of being salaried and all sick pay and everything like that, and then started in hospital. Anyway, pretty quickly I got out of hospital, and I had to get on the road to get selling. As a new business, we sort of set this wholesale equestrian business up, but we approached all the top brands and none of them were interested. And then one of the brands we approached who was interested was Lucinda Green Clothing.
Okay.
And it was a brand many years ago, and it was built around Lucinda's name. And that was the first brand that we started to sell. So I went around saddleries up and down the country selling the brand. And it just literally grew from there. And then the next year, 2001, we exhibited at Beta for the first time. We had a tiny stand, but we won an award. I'd always wanted a picture of me on a horse and Hound. Instead, I was there holding a garment, winning an award, but it was not on a horse, but it was still a picture.
Still counts, then, Simon. It still counts.
Yeah. Then I think it was a bit later on in that year, just when we got going, or whether it was 2001 or 2002, foot and mouth hit the UK. So we just literally started the business and foot and mouth hit. But a lot of the other businesses were like, oh, this is terrible, we're not going to cope. And we were like, well, we've got to cope, we've got to get on with it. And we just carried on and just kept doing as much as we can. And anyway, from the thing at Beta, then some of the brands that we'd approached came to us and said, actually, we would be quite interested in working with you. So we'd set up as a wholesaler. So basically the idea was that we would take product in and sell it to saddleries up and down the UK. And by the end, I think, of 2002, we had maybe 4 brands. And literally, it sort of grew from there, really. And over time, it just grew and grew. And then in 2006, Lindsay and I bought our business partners out. It was just a time for transition, really. It was a big deal because we obviously had to raise funds to buy them out. It was a difficult time. And, I'll always remember what those people did to the setting us up in business, but it was a good time to start afresh, really. Yeah, and literally we've just grown from there, from sort of one brand, and I think today we've got 17 now. So it's just grown and grown.
I love that. It feels like it kind of came full circle, sort of the love of horses, the jobs that you had, both as a retail manager within a supermarket and then selling back to the supermarket. All of those pieces of the puzzle sort of fitted in. Even going back to your time with Rachel, were you always interested then in the products that were on the market? I mean, that was 15 years or so before the business actually started. Was that on your radar at that early stage?
Yeah, it's always on my radar. It's always has been. Always, I look what everyone uses, what hats, boots, whips, gloves, saddles. It's just something I always spot. Like, we have friends down the road at Horsey, and they sometimes do tests on me, and they'll name a rider, and they'll say what saddle are they in, etc., etc. I mean, like, probably everyone you've done a podcast with, I could probably tell you what they ride in. It's just a bit of a passion, really.
I feel like we need to put this to the test, Simon.
Okay.
I'm going to throw a couple of... I'll throw you some...
I'll probably get it wrong now.
Riders. Okay. Look, the sparkle in his eye, listeners. He loves this. Absolutely loves it. Andrew Nicholson.
Andrew Nicholson, he did ride in Boutte saddles, and then they rebranded, and he now rides in Renaissance. I'm giving these companies all adverts.
I know. Laura Collin.
She rides in a keep, of course.
There we go. We've got one of your brands in there. Yeah. Who else could we go for? Holly Woodhead.
Holly, she rides saddle-wise in Voltaire, and obviously clothing-wise, she rides in Cavallo clothing and Uvex helmets. So.
There we go. I'm very impressed. Very impressed, Simon. This is like my kind of party trick. If somebody throws a horse's name or a rider's name, I can sort of give them random facts. I'm sure you've been going cross country a few times thinking, God, that girl knows far too much about me. I'm going to know even more. Take me back to the start of your business when you're lying in that hospital bed, your company car's gone, your benefits of being employed by a company have gone. You're starting a new business is tough. I think that there's some mad statistic about the number of new businesses that fail within the first 2 years. What goes through your mind at that point?
I think, it's scary, but I think my wife's been a great support. So she was always there for me. She had set up her own business, so I could see that worked. And obviously the business partners we had at the time were very supportive. So yeah, it's a bit of a leap of faith, but you've made that choice and you've just got to make it work, really. And I'm a believer in you put a lot in, normally you'll get it out. I just gave it all I could, and luckily it came good.
I'm always a firm believer in that if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, I really believe in that. Yeah.
And actually, the best things in life aren't easy. And actually to get to the top in certain things, you've got to really dig deep and like take the rough times with the smooth times. What about how it works with different brands? Because I mean, you've gone from those sort of initial couple of brands in the early 2000s to 17 today. So when we say you're a distributor of premium equestrian brands, what is that? Kind of break it down for us, because I think that's certainly something that, when we talk about Zebra products, we want to know how it works and how the pieces of the puzzle fit together.
Okay. I guess what the brands do, if you look at, say, a brand in Europe, rather than supply maybe 500 saddleries in the UK, they look for like a distribution place and team that can manage their brand in the UK. And so we have the relationship with the brand. The product comes into our warehouse and then we distribute it to saddleries up and down the UK. So it means that they've only got, if you think across the world, they've got distributors in each country. It means they're dealing with single distributors rather than like thousands of shops. So it helps them sort of focus, and it helps them, makes it easier sort of we can deliver to a saddlery every day, whereas we only get deliveries maybe once a week from a supplier. And this is all actually it's all become even more important post-Brexit, really, because it's a lot harder to get product from Europe now. So distributors are even more a crucial part of the journey, really.
And so how does that work in terms of then the retail side of it? So you're business to business, so you then sort of import the products from the different brands that you're working with. How many different retailers across the country do you work with?
In total, I'd say probably about 350, I think. Yeah.
Okay, that's
and that they don't take all the brands. Some might do, but some might just take one brand. Some might take two. It depends. There's a real mixture there. There might be like a feed store that just take Cavalier, and there might be a saddle fitter that just takes America or Rakip. It varies across the board, really.
And in terms of the sort of the team angle, the team is something that you're really, really big on. Ultimately, you and Lindsay are still kind of the core of the business. So how has that evolved, and how does that sort of determine the ethos within Zebra Products?
I've got a great team. I mean, we call them the herd. We always got
to stay ahead of the herd.
Ahead of the herd, yeah. We call them the herd. I really, really love my team. I've got a young team that I get a lot of energy from, and a lot of them have developed within the business. Like one of my purchasers, she was originally a part-time warehouse assistant. My customer service manager joined as a customer service assistant. My longest employee is someone that's been with me 18 years, and she basically, when she joined us, she did everything, and now she's basically our accountant. So she knows everything about the business. So there's someone in there that's, they've all played interesting parts, and we have really good team spirit.
And your team spirit sort of internally, I think, probably expands out, and the ripple effect goes out to the brand ambassadors and the riders that you work really closely with, because that's become a big part of probably what Zebra Products are particularly well known for, but also a big part of your story.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having really nice products, it's important that we work with really good riders, and I always try and make sure we align the best rider with the best product, really. So we've gone for a mixture of riders, sort of like very top level riders are always nice to have, but it's always nice nurturing people along the way. I mean, probably one of my main things that I feel proud of is we were Charlotte Dujardin's first ever sponsor. I met her many years ago, and Carl Hester actually said to me, "You need to support this girl. She's going to win a gold medal." And Charlotte was gobby young thing, sort of like, I want this, something like that. And we supported her, and we still sponsor her now with a number of brands. And it's nice seeing that journey. And I think the riders that we have, I think because I ride as well, I can relate to them. How important the competitions are to them. How important the product is to them. If they've got a problem with a product, I know how critical it is to sort it out. And I think maybe some of the other brands or competitors, they don't get that. Whereas I think I know you see them at shows, and, like I was due to compete at the weekend. I was going to meet Ros Cantor there to pick something up from her. It just is important, really. And also, I'm very proud of the riders that we work with. It's always great when they have great results, and, it's nice, really nice.
You've got a really thriving team. I mean, there's the likes of Yaz Ingham, who's now the new world champion, Charlotte Dujardin. I mean, massive part of her journey throughout the years. It's not just eventing based. We focus a lot of our shows on the eventing side of things. And there's, Tom McEwen, Laura Collett, the list goes on. But actually outside of eventing, there's huge, huge names that have a brilliant relationship with you. Was there a story, I'm sure I've heard this, of Oliver Townend, Kentucky, and a pair of boots?
Yeah, I think he either broke a pair of boots or needed a pair. And I think Karen, his manager, contacted me and said, "We've got a big problem. You need to sort this out." And anyway, then I got in touch with Tucci, the people that provide him with boots. They had a stand at America, or a retailer with a stand. And Oliver got a pair of boots, and the retailer there looked after him. So it's a good network. And we would do the same over here. If there was a foreign rider with a problem, we'd try and help them out. And
it's an incredible
he got the boots and competed in them. Yeah,
he probably won that year as well. Who knows?
Yeah, probably.
He did.
I think he did.
There you go. You've been a big part of a number of riders' journeys from the start. What do you look for in the riders that you work with? What is it really important to you that you see?
I think quite a lot of things. I think we have beautiful brands and they're very nice brands. They have to look good. They have to, I think it's nice that they have to ride well and be accomplished, and that they're decent people and are good to work with, and they want the brand. I never want anyone to take something just because they're being offered it. I want people to want it. That's really important. Yeah, if someone just wants to tick a box and say, well, I got sponsored by them, then I wouldn't really want to do that.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Decent people. I think being a decent person gets you a long way in life. And actually, like the team members that have been around you almost since the beginning, and the riders that you've worked with for 10, 15 plus years, actually, ultimately, you can have a short relationship, but it gets found out eventually if you're not all in it for the right reasons. What about the kind of the ups and the downs that we've had over the last 23 years? Because you mentioned foot and mouth. We then had a big old recession in about 2008, which would have been not long after you bought your business partners out. A big old time then. We've had COVID, we've had Brexit. I mean, the list, there's been some sort of turbulent times as well. How has the business had to adapt and change and evolve over those tricky times to be able to flourish, survive, and thrive?
We are a small business, so I think the advantage of a small business is, someone once said to me, it's a bit like driving a speedboat. You have to move quickly and avoid the rocks in the sea, type of thing. Whereas if you've got a great big business, it's a bit like a cruise liner, and if there's an accident in that, it's a huge devastation. So I think just being agile, really, you just have to adapt, change, move, and that's with each sort of problem that's been thrown at us. We just had to adapt and change as best as we can, really. You don't always get it right, but if you don't get it right, you can try again. I think it's just been open to change. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. I like the speedboat analogy. You use that in life, I think. What about the Brexit side of things? Because actually, as you said a little bit earlier on in the show, that has it's made it harder for you, but actually you've taken away the stress of a lot of those kind of retailers, in so much as you are the one kind of absorbing that for them, and deliveries take longer. So has that meant that you've had to hold more stock? What impact has that had?
I mean, when we obviously first heard about Brexit, I was really worried, because it's always the unknown, and it was no one really knew how it was going to evolve, etc. So it was a worrying time, and obviously it happened at a pretty similar time to the COVID outbreak as well. But actually, exactly what you said, by sort of, we take care of the hassle that the retailers would have to do. So we look after that. We take care of the duty. We've always taken care of the shipping, but we manage. It's a little bit more complicated now. And what we've done to try and make it a lot easier is we hold more stock. We have more stock to again make it easier for retailers to get product from us. Really, that's been a benefit, because if you had a choice of buying from us and getting it, if you order at 1 o'clock, you get it next day delivery, or ordering from Italy or Germany directly and you get it in 3 weeks. Hopefully you'll make the UK choice, really. So.
And the brands that you work with, are you the sole distributor for them on UK soil? Is that how it works?
Yeah, all the brands we distribute were exclusive in the UK, some in Ireland and some not. Yeah. Obviously that changed with Brexit as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. And what about the future? What does the future hold for Zebra products?
I always say, because I've got a big portfolio of brands, I keep saying, I'm not going to take any more on. And then I took another brand on in November.
You spotted somebody riding in a bridle, didn't you, Simon?
Yeah. I watched the World's Dressage Championships. My wife's a big dressage fan, and we watched that together. And obviously we saw Lottie Fry looking absolutely amazing on Glamourdale. And I saw in her social posts, she kept tagging in a brand called Finesse Bridles. So I thought, this bridal brand must be interesting. So I contacted the lady behind the brand, and she didn't have a distributor in the UK. it was really nice. Her business was really new and she'd never had a distributor in the whole world. So she met with me and she'd never had like a distributor. She sold tax saddleries all around the world, but she'd never had a distributor. So we had a really open and honest conversation, and then we struck up a deal. And yeah, that's my latest project, really.
Amazing. Finesse Bridals, there you go. One to watch, listeners. What about the partnership with us? Because we have worked together for probably 3 or 4 years now. And I have to admit, we are so grateful that when we came to you initially with the sort of the mad idea that we had this podcast, and we were really looking for some brands that would kind of become part of our family and we could work really closely with, you've put your trust in us to kind of go, yeah, actually, we believe in you and we trust your vision. Has anything stood out for you over the last few years? Because I think for me, your trust in us shone through when we spoke pre-Tokyo and we said, we've got this idea, would really like to do some tour diaries. And you said, you know what, you've not led us wrong, go for it. And they remain to this day some of our most popular shows. And that was down to the leap of faith that you put in us. So I guess what I'm trying to say is thank you, Simon, because it is massively appreciated.
I'm always open to different ways of sort of marketing. And I think, again, you guys are a young team. I knew Sam already from the relationship with the Amerigo, and he's a very forward-thinking guy. And obviously when he introduced me to you and Dermot, I thought, these are really interesting people. And then I wanted to give you an opportunity, and then you came up with the goods plus. It was amazing. It was really good. And I listened to the podcasts. I either play them in my car or I play them when I'm on the plane or something like that. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
And when you're riding around a cross-country course, the really annoying commentator knows far too much about you. How's your eventing career going now? Because you still ride, you still compete, and you still thoroughly enjoy it.
Absolutely love it. I'm a workaholic, like most people are in this industry. And I think if I didn't ride, I'd just work all the time. So the riding makes me stop working. But I feel if I have a goal like a competition, it really makes me ensure that I don't keep working all the time, because I don't want to go to a competition and be badly prepared. So that makes me allocate time to ride. And I love riding and I love competing, and it keeps me on the pulse of what's happening as well, because you see the gear, you see the products, you see the riders, you see the shops at the trade stands. Yeah, and I just really love it. This year I've got, which is a bit crazy, but I've got 3 horses to event just by chance, and yeah, I'm quite excited, looking forward to it, really.
I love how you say, if you didn't ride, you would be working all the time. But then you were talking about how you were working when you were riding by watching what everybody else was doing. It tied in there as well. I can appreciate that. For all of the listeners that have kind of followed the Zebra Show over the last few years that we've been doing it, and who really appreciate all of the support that you've shown us and actually would like to kind of pay that back, they're really interested in what you guys do and the brands that you work with, how can they support you? What is the best way?
I guess, obviously it'd be great if they all bought loads of the product. That would be great. But also just promoting the products and just saying, it's really important that people are authentic and that they believe in them. And as I said before, I only want to work with people that do believe in it. So I think just spreading the message, but they have to do it in their own way. Some people are natural salespeople and some people are not. Some people just get approached. People ask them advice of what they think about this. So I think people have to find their own way, but if they can, champion the product, then that's really appreciated, and promote the brands. Yeah, I think that would be great.
There you go, listeners. You can do that, can't you? They've given us so much support, so many lovely guests on the Zebra Show over the last few years. I'm absolutely sure they will. Simon, it has been a fascinating insight into the business. And I've learned things that I didn't know as well. And I have to admit the utmost admiration, because anybody that starts a business, it's tough old going. To do it from a hospital bed with a broken back is seriously tough. And to weather the storms over the last few years as well, I don't think we can actually underestimate how tough that can be and how tough it can be at times. So thank you for being a workaholic. Thank you for all of your support. And thank you for telling us a little bit more about the Zebra product story.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Oh, an absolute pleasure. Listeners, I had to really twist his arm to give this interview. And I'm so glad we managed to persuade him, because it's such an interesting and authentic insight. That word comes back again into what it takes. Be decent people, and actually it will get you a long way in life. Work hard. Find the little areas of opportunity that might pop up. And I guarantee that everybody listening to this show, next time they're riding around in a collecting ring, will be eyeing up saddles, bridles, gloves, just to see what everybody is riding in. Listeners, thank you very much, as always, for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Do please share your support for Zebra as well. They've been massive supporters of the pod, and we couldn't do it without them. And Simon, thank you very much. We will be back very soon with more. We've got some exciting guests on the Zebra Show this year, listeners. I'm not gonna kind of bust out any secrets now, but you won't want to miss them. So look out for them. They'll be coming very soon. Thanks for listening.